This is India 360, broadcasting live from the CNN IBN headquarters in New Delhi with Sagarika Ghosh.
Hi there, very good evening to you. Welcome to India 360, the program that looks at every issue of the day from the point of view of the citizen of India. That's you, and this is your program. Here are the headlines. To help us understand that shocking statistic, Sudhir Ghodke, Director Education Initiative, he was one of the people who actually put together that diagnostic report on the state of education in our schools. Lata Vaidyanathan, Principal Modern School, Barakhamba, she joins us from Delhi, and Professor R. Govinda, he's Professor, National Institute of Education Planning and Administration. Thanks very much all for joining us. Lata Vaidyanathan, straight across to you, a shocking survey there. 60% children in that survey could not read a simple story. These are class 2 students. They couldn't recognize a square. Older children didn't know the chemical composition of steam, and even older children could not read a map. And these are students in elite private schools, like the schools of which you are a principal. I mean, this is utterly shocking.
While I'm not too sure that every bit of the survey report is to be taken very seriously, it is an indicator of the fact that it's a very, very evaluation-driven system, and a complete educational scenario which is completely dependent upon marks and selection through marks. Towards the end of schooling, children focus on just what the exams require. The schools, I must confess, at least at the 10th and the 12th, the board-going classes cease to be places of great learning and become coaching centers of conveyor belt finished products. I am not ashamed to say that this is exactly what happens. But when we refer this question to colleges and other people, say, of higher education, well, there doesn't seem to be a better way of selecting children, and that's where the problem lies.
Right.
But if I look back at primary education, I must say that the scenario is not as grim as it seems, because a lot of good thinking educators are looking at meaningful and relevant ways in which learning can be facilitated, create conditions of joyful learning, and this is not just a cliched statement. I've been so much a part of it that I know it actually happens.
But as you yourself admitted, ma'am,
I'm not saying that it happens.
But as you yourself admitted that the exam-oriented system is creating machine-driven conveyor belt products. Sudhir Ghodke, Director Education Initiative, share with us some of the other findings on your survey.
See, actually, we have been doing ASSET, that's the diagnostic test on which these results are based, for over 10 rounds. We've been doing this for 5 years, and we are seeing that there is a clear indication that memory is getting shown in these results. The children's understanding levels across subjects, English, maths, science, are tending to be low. There are cases where estimation as a skill is completely just not there. There is measurement that is being taught, but a skill that is more required in day-to-day life, estimation, that is not getting covered. Even skilled topics like algebra, topics like geometry, where you have like the identification of shapes that the question came up. If you give the question as is being asked in the regular exams, children would get it. But if you just tweak it a bit, if you change the format a bit, if you make it slightly unfamiliar, then the children just say this is out of syllabus.
So they can score high marks in maths but still not learn any maths.
Yes, they are tuned towards the way testing the way that it is taught. Right? So the school tests usually check the learning in a particular format, and when you are actually checking for real learning, which is what this diagnostic test ASSET would like to do, then there are some results that come up which we want the teachers to take seriously and actually look at it and say that, okay, why are the children not able to answer this question? What is it in the question that is flummoxing them? What is it in the question that they are not able to understand?
So can we therefore say,
can
we therefore say that underneath all the toppers and all the sort of exam busters who we have, the dark reality is that a number of these people with very high marks simply are not educated?
I would not say that. It's not like whether they're educated or not educated. There are some issues, there are some skills, there are some concepts that are not getting across when the teacher teaches that. And a diagnostic test like ACID would throw up that these concepts have not been understood by the children. And we want these diagnostic tests to become feedback mechanisms to the schools and to the teachers, and so that they can use this data. I mean, basically the point of this test is that it should be used in the classroom, and it should be used as a pointer of what is happening. And once it is being used, then we would see progressively the learning levels will go on improving. I mean, that's the whole point of doing such a diagnostic test.
Right, stay with us, Mr. Sudhir Ghodke, Lata Vaidyanathan, Professor Govinda. We'll come back to you in just a short. In the very birthplace of modern Indian education, now a wasteland of illiteracy. And educated children in schools are becoming illiterate. Joining us to discuss is Sudhir Ghodke, Lata Vaidyanathan, Professor R. Govinda. Professor R. Govinda, we also have a finding here which we found for our show, that a number of educated people have terrific learning disabilities. Many of educated people can't file IT returns, they can't fill in forms, they can't follow written instructions, they can't read a newspaper or a map or a dictionary or even understand a bus schedule. In short, they can't deal with any printed material. And these are educated people. How does this learning disability develop in educated people?
No, in my view, although as the other panelists mentioned, it is the exam orientation in the end of the cycle that is a serious issue. But I do consider that much of the problem begins in the early stages of learning. We have created our primary classes, even nursery classes, as mirror images of 10th and 12th standard learning, and which is not the way children learn. In my view, it is at that stage, in the early stages, that children develop habits of analysis, habits of application, questioning attitude, free expression, all that we consider as functional literacy, they acquire at that stage. But it is at that stage that we make life so treacherous for the children, they sidestep all possible skills and only memorize. So, in my view, actually, it is the early stages of learning.
Right, let's put that to Lata Vaidyanathan. Lata Vaidyanathan, do you agree with Professor Govinda that in fact it's at the early stages where the rot sets in, that even nursery schools are mirror images of senior school, and that is why nursery school children are simply not being able to learn?
I think I'll really put it forward as a concern of all educators. But I must say that as long as examinations and school systems will continue to be downward extensions of this examination system, this rot will be visible. But it's not such a hopeless situation, because we're all looking at how it can be made more meaningful, and make it developmentally appropriate kind of learning. And I'm not theoretizing. I can tell you that a lot is happening in schools, and it is not such a dismal situation.
But ma'am, if I could ask you,
let's finish. I do believe that Sudhir's feedback is really beautiful. We're all concerned because it's a time-tested thing. And while this is happening in bits and pieces, lot more needs to be done across schools as a culture, with great concern.
But is it just the fault of the textbooks and the system, or is it also the fault of perhaps the child who has ceased to be curious and intellectually questioning?
No, I don't think only adults fail children. Children don't fail us.
Right.
Children don't fail us.
Mr. Sudhir Ghodke, are schools receptive to your diagnostic test? Do people take it seriously and welcome the feedback that you give them?
I think the best schools in the country respond the best to us. I mean, they are the schools that are wanting to push the boundaries. They are the schools that are wanting to look at themselves more critically. And we see that across the board. If you take the top schools, the principal is the most important person. Like Lata, there are principals who are progressive, who want to know actually what is happening in their schools.
Right.
But as you go down the line, there are a lot of principals who tend to look at it with a slightly defensive nature. They're not very sure of whether they want to go in for such a test, and we actually tell them that we will help the teachers look at it in a positive way. And
so you are helping the teachers.
that we give to the
Right.
Yes, we offer services which are after the test. We sit with the teachers and help them look at the data in a very non-judgmental way.
Right, well, on that note, we have to leave it right there. On that note, Mr. Sudhir Ghodke, thanks very much indeed for joining us, and thanks very much indeed for your very enlightening study, which I think will be a tremendous source of enlightenment for school principals and for parents all across India. Mr. Sudhir Ghodke, Ms. Lata Vaidyanathan, Professor R. Govinda, thanks very much all indeed for joining us on this special series, Learning to Forget. Short break now on India 360. A stunning indictment there of our education system. Our children are in school and college, but they cannot read properly or do basic maths. They can't read maps, consult dictionaries, or even fill forms. In short, they are in school and college but functionally illiterate. If you know of any kind of incidents like this on functional illiteracy, do write to us at ibnlive.com.